Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our final showcase event of the year. Again, we were hoping by this point we would have been able to welcome people back into our building and show you around and speak to you face to face. But clearly, it's the times that we live in, so we're still doing these virtually. I'm pleased to see so many of you here joining us tonight. I've got some great speakers from employers, from our alumni, and we've got some of our current students here joining us as well. So I'll introduce those as we go through the evening. I do hope you enjoy tonight and it's informative. Just to make you aware as well, we've got a few things coming up in the future that get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty and detail of the day-to-day operations of the UTC. So in the next few weeks, we'll be inviting both year 12, particularly in the short term, to an options evening where you can learn more about A-levels. And then later on in the year, we've got our Y9 options evening as well, once applications, etc., have gone out to those. So we're also in the process of getting a virtual 3D tour of the building done. So once that's done over the next month or two, we'll be sharing that with you. So even if we can't get you in the building, you'll have the opportunity to have a look around. So without further ado, moving on to tonight. Bear with me a second. There we go. So just a few things really. All your microphones and cameras are disabled. Those of you who are attending, and those presenters will be coming on and offline as they're required. But throughout the night, you'll see a question and answer box on your Zoom panel. If you've got any questions, you can drop those in there at any point throughout the evening, starting from now. And there's people monitoring that box that will collate those. And then towards the end, once everybody's had the opportunity to present, we'll put those questions to either the employers, to myself if it's about the UTC, or to our students and alumni. Right at the end, as we do that, we'll hopefully complete all of those, and then we'll be hopefully done at the latest by about 6:15, depending how many questions that you answer. If we do get questions that you ask, if we do get lots and lots of questions thrown in there and we don't necessarily get the chance to get to all of them, we usually manage to cover most things. Then there's an email address there, admin@utcsheffield.org.uk, that feel free to throw any other questions in there at any point, even if they come to you after tonight's event, and we'll make sure the relevant member of staff gets back to you to answer that. So tonight is our showcase event, and it is about the UTC and for our new applicants. If you've joined, if you've already been to one of our showcase events, then some of the information I'm about to share is particularly aimed at those that this might be the first time they're learning about the UTC. But once I've finished going through these things, we've got new employers, new alumni, and different students to speak to you. So please hang around, because it's going to be worth hearing from employers from different sectors and those students who've been with us or are still here. So what is a University Technical College for those new to us? A University Technical College is a 13 to 9 students who come to a UTC don't arrive with us at the age of 11 in year 7, they come to us at the age of 13 in year 9. That means that it's early enough to start to get those technical skills developed in those young people ahead of where they would normally do so had they moved into these specialist sectors at the age of 16, but not too early in their educational career, so they specialise too early and they can make an educated decision about the types of careers that they want to go down. The specialisms that we have in our UTC here are engineering and creative and digital media. We have 2 UTCs in Sheffield, one over at the Olympic Legacy Park site where the Don Valley Stadium used to be, that has a specialism in computing, health sciences and sports science. There are opportunities to work across both UTCs, particularly at post-16 when you're working on A-levels, but you pick your particular specialism based on the industry you want to follow. Those particular sectors that we've picked at both UTCs, obviously tonight focuses on city centre. Engineering and creative digital media are seen as massive growth areas for the Sheffield region, as well as nationally. And we had to select those based on the needs of those key growth areas to make sure that we're developing a talent pipeline and workforce that will be able to work in those sectors in the future. In order to carry the name University Technical College, we have to be sponsored by a university. We're lucky enough at the UTC to be sponsored by both universities in Sheffield. Sheffield Hallam University and the University of Sheffield have been long-standing partners with us since the conception of the UTC, and now work with us both on ensuring our courses are suitable for progression to their degrees, but also to ensure that our equipment, the teaching that we deliver, and the standards are here as well, because they both sit on our governance body, are appropriate to allow direct progression into multitude of different degrees and higher level apprenticeships supported by those universities. It's academically and technically rigorous. I cannot emphasize that enough. Our qualifications here are rigorous, both in our technical subject areas and academically, so that students do a full suite of GCSEs alongside their technical specialisms, and the opportunity to do A levels or a mixture of level 3 qualifications alongside technical learning at level 3. Importantly, particularly in our technical areas though, our technical learning is sponsored and supported with huge amounts of employer backing. We work with well over 50 employers across in a multitude of different ways, from work experience to placements to curriculum set projects to events like tonight, where you get the opportunity to hear from them about what they're looking for in terms of progression into those sectors. And they've helped us to shape and drive that curriculum from the offset to make sure that when students leave us, they've got the appropriate skill set, the right qualifications, and the right acumen and personality traits that allow them to stand out when they're in an interview, and then therefore become very, very successful in those particular sectors. Progression routes here, not just focused on university, it's that mixed approach of progression into apprenticeships, into the world of work, alongside very academically focused university places. We have a huge amount of success with our destinations. 100% of our students have moved on to successful destinations since we've opened, and that fluctuates year on year between a percentage moving into apprenticeships or onto university, including Russell Group with students having progressed to Cambridge, University of Sheffield, and other institutions across the country. We run a slightly longer day than a normal school, and we make no excuses for that, with the exception of year 9, who finish at 2:30, which allows them to get home, particularly in the winter months when it is like it is at the moment. Teaching runs from 8:30 till 4:30, with enrichment time put in there at the end of the day, so students get that feeling of being used to what a full working day looks like out there in the world of work. In conjunction with that, we also have professional business wear. So at Key Stage 4, years 9, 10 and 11, our students wear a grey suit, white shirt, blue tie. If you've been on the website, you'll have seen our students in their uniform. And then at post 16, students have the opportunity to come dressed ready for the world of work. So that we still call it business dress, but it's at the student's discretion what that is. And therefore they come in professional business attire, which we think brings the appropriate level of focus and again supports that readiness to be able to move into the world of work. We're a relatively small institution in comparison to some secondary schools, and that's intentional. It allows us to focus on the individual, and it ensures that the students that are here are very much selected to come here based on the specialisms that they want to teach. So we're around about 500 students on roll, just over at the moment. We'll never be more than 600, and it's approximately a 50-50 split in terms of those at Key Stage 4 and those at Key Stage 5. As mentioned, despite the name college, we are a school and we're inspected as such. We've had 2 Ofsted inspections now, both of them very successful. First one in 2016 and our last one in 2020 last year, literally weeks before we landed in lockdown. Both very positive reports. We're really pleased of them. If it's the sort of thing you're interested in and you want to check out some of the unique things that Ofsted commented on about the UTC, please go ahead and read the Ofsted reports, which are available on either Ofsted's or our websites. I've mentioned some of our employers. Here's a selection of some of those that are partners with us. Many of these have been with us since the beginning, since our conception, helped us to shape the curriculum, defined student-led projects, helped us, advised us on equipment and skill sets, etc. And then obviously now, as we've been established, are now some of our primary employers for taking students into their workforce. That list changes, it evolves and it grows over time, as you'll see in a moment. I'm going to show you some of our destinations before I hand over to our first employer, which are these. So you'll see a mixture of universities there, as well as national and international employers, and some that are local. You'll see a mix across both sectors there. University destinations, particularly for our creative digital students, are a key focus because that tends to be one of the main routes into that particular sector. But we are seeing an increase in apprenticeships growing in that industry. And you'll also see some big international names there from the engineering sector who have been some of our primary employers supporting destinations for our students. Some more recent ones, so these are literally from the last year or two. students moving away all over the country to pursue the particular career or university course that they want to, and alongside other more local employers. That list is just a sample. As I've said, 100% of our students have managed to get a successful destination since we opened, but it just gives you some idea of the breadth and depth of our employer and university destinations that we've been able to support our students to progress to, which you'll hear more from later when you speak to our alumni and our current students about their ambitions of where they want to go. Before we go and ask those students about their experiences, both those that have left us and those currently with us, I'm going to hand over to two of our employers, starting with our actual Chair of Governors, who is Dan Fleetcroft from Performance Engineered Solutions, who's going to talk to you about why he works with the UTC and why the skill set we're aiming to train is so desperately needed in the industry. So, Dan, if I could ask you to turn your mic and camera on, and I'll hand over to you for the next few minutes.
So, pleasure to see you all, or not really see you, but to have you here. I want to talk a bit about who I am and what I do and why I'm working with UTC, then to discuss why I think you are here and some of the opportunities I think that the UTC will do. Now, my focus is very much in the engineering. Kevin will, from Jellyfish, will push more on the creative and digital media side. So I'm my background is engineering, and my focus will be that. So I am technical director and co-owner of an engineering consultancy called Performance Engineered Solutions. We're a collaborative engineering solutions business based on the Advanced Manufacturing Park, so literally down the parkway, sort of, I guess, 8 or 10 miles from the UTC. Our business delivers engineering solutions that rely heavily on the talent, skills, knowledge, and experience of engineers. And essentially, as we've grown our business, we have found it a significant challenge to recruit and find engineers with the right skills. It's called a skills gap, and we've seen that with young apprentice and graduate engineers. There's been a lack of practical knowledge that's not been taught in traditional schools and even through to university, but also that commercial and business skills. So for me, the UTC is what's filling that gap. That's what's giving our young engineers the skills and the knowledge that we need in our business, and quite frankly, a large number of engineering and manufacturing businesses across the country need in their business. So I'm here for selfish reasons, because I'm looking at my business and its growth, and where am I going to find my next employees from. So getting involved with UTC from the outset, where we have as an employer some influence on the curriculum and what young engineers are learning, is absolutely fantastic for us, and really that's the fundamental reason why we're here. We have a crusade to change the perception of what the UK in particular think engineers do, and if you are listening to me, I think you've probably you are far better educated in what engineering is. It is not fixing cars in a garage. It is not fixing the telephone when it breaks. You know, those are technician roles. They are good, solid roles. But engineering is a professional career choice. It's like being a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant. It's highly skilled. It is in high-tech environments, and it's a super exciting place to be. So I'm here because I want the best engineers for my business in the future, and I get a chance to shape what you may choose your careers to be and the skills that you'll come out with. And how do we do that? So by working with the UTC, we set the design challenge for you as a student that you would be if you were here, and that sets our ability to get all of the skills that we need in our young engineers, from sketching through to computer-aided design and simulation, to hand calculations, to some business acumen, to understanding how to deal with clients. So that for us is super critical and also super exciting. So it's been a wonderful journey with the UTC, and Alex mentioned the Ofsted inspection early last year, which as chair of governors, I can tell you is a stressful experience, but we came out with a superb glowing report. So it's a super place to be. So why are you here? Well, I'm hoping you're here because you're excited by the opportunities in engineering and creative and digital media. For me, a 2018 state of engineering report from Engineering UK showed 59,000 shortfall in engineering graduates and technicians. Their reports changed format for 2019 and 2020. It's slightly harder to get those figures out, but as far as I can tell, that figure looks to be rising rapidly. So the shortfall is increasing. So there's a great opportunity for careers in engineering. What else do you get from coming here is you get to kind of test drive some potential future employers. So as part of your curriculum, you can kind of look and see the different areas in engineering you can explore and give them a little bit of a tryout and hopefully find out the ones that most interest you and are going to give you the best opportunities. So a kind of try before you buy, which I think is an amazing opportunity, something I wish I had when I was at school to kind of help me shape the career path I want. For me, the bit that's exciting is that the skills that you're going to learn are skills that I and my business need. And there are a lot of businesses in Sheffield and nationally that are here for this very reason. We want you to learn skills that we are requiring in our business. That is going to be good for you when it comes to looking for a job, because your CV is going to shine and set you aside from others. You also get that opportunity to build relationships with employers locally, nationally, and internationally. So again, linked to that kind of test drive of your career, you can start forming relationships with potentially your employers in the future. So work experience, opportunities to do mock interviews with them, get to know people in those companies. So a really good opportunity to kind of jumpstart that first job that you'll be going for. I'm passionate about engineering. I find it a massively exciting and fulfilling career. I've got a few pictures here to sort of let you know where it's taken me. So if you look on the left, that's me a long time ago with hair, working for the Ferrari Formula One team. So I spent 5 years working for Ferrari and another 5 years working in a variety of Formula One teams. Moving along, there's me with a little less hair, and a little bit older, working for Kenny Roberts in MotoGP. So Kenny Roberts is a 3 times world MotoGP champion. That job took me around the world, traveling to races, engineering motorcycles. I've been to the Olympics, developing winter sports equipment for the British team. I've been involved in golf projects, amongst many other different environments. And then we get to do some crazy stuff, lawnmower racing. So my engineering skills and the companies I've worked for, we do some silly things for fun. And that kind of theme of engineering is all the way through my career and my hobbies. And we meet some amazing people. So on the far right is us scanning Eric Morecambe. We met the artist that did that sculpture, but when Kevin comes on, he's going to blow you away compared to my experience with the things he's worked on. But the opportunities that both engineering and creative digital can give you in terms of careers and satisfaction, not just the salary, are absolutely amazing. So the opportunities, as I've sort of alluded to, where can the UTC in engineering take you? Well, everything on our planet, everything consumer goods wise, everything you use is touched by engineering. It's engineered. It doesn't really matter what it is, whether it's the chair you're sitting on, the paint on the walls, the computer you're using, the car you're driving. All of those things are created and manufactured through engineering. As I mentioned earlier, through that statistic, there is a massive shortfall in the UK today, and the engineers that are coming out don't all have the skills that we require. And for me, that's a challenge as a small business, as a larger business, and the opportunities in larger businesses are equally available. They have the budget and time to put you through internal training, and we do that too, but it's a big cost to us. So the more skills you have that suit our requirements, the more likely we are to want to employ you, and the better your salary will be. As I sort of alluded to, engineering's taken me all over the world, particularly with racing. So, you know, if travel and different cultures and countries is something that excites you, you can take your engineering skills and use them everywhere. You know, the British engineers certainly historically were the leading engineers in the world, and I like to think we're right up there today. And so, you know, that qualification is recognised globally. Salaries are on the increase because of demand. So, you know, that skill shortage means that you are very much sought after, and to compete for the best engineers, there is more money to be putting in your bank. And finally, interestingly, sort of at the moment, this this fourth industrial revolution, you may have heard it mentioned, Industry 4.0. The jobs are becoming even more technology based, and there's a change in the way we manufacture things, which is really requiring more skilled engineers. So again, more opportunities for you to find interesting career paths. So that's enough from me. I hope that's given you a taste of why I'm here and perhaps what you might be able to do. It's certainly a super exciting career. It's been you know, 40 years for me, give or take, maybe not quite that much, but pretty close to it, of interest and excitement. So I can only say I wish you luck, and hopefully that will tempt you to really consider a position here. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Dan. So thanks you so much, Dan, for that. Dan's going to be here at the end, so if you've got any questions about anything Dan's mentioned, please drop them in the Q&A box, and I can fire them at Dan at the end. And I just need to say a big thank you for Dan's ongoing support, both in his original role as an employer and his last few years as chair of governors. He's a really valued member of our team and sponsors. So without further ado, going to move on. So we've heard from an engineer. We're now going to hear from Kevin Spruce, who's animation director at Jellyfish Pictures. Just before I ask Kevin to come on and speak to us, I'm just going to play a very exciting show reel of some of the work that Kevin and Jellyfish get involved with, which I'm sure some of you will be very familiar with. So we'll see the show reel first, and then I'll invite Kevin to speak to you all. So if I could ask Kevin if you'd like to turn your camera on, and amazing show reel, and I'll hand over to you, Kevin, for the next few minutes.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks everyone for coming. Thanks Dan, thanks Alex. Yeah, I didn't do all of that stuff there, just for the record. But I've been in animation for about 30 years in total. I joined Jellyfish about 1.5 years ago after being an animation supervisor at Framestore company in London. Jellyfish's main site is in London. So we've just this last year branched out into the north with the idea to grow the talent pool up here and, you know, make a stamp on animation in Sheffield. So far it's going pretty well. We're just in the midst of completing our first feature project for DreamWorks. DreamWorks Animation, which is a very rare thing that they franchise, let other companies do bits of their franchise. So I can't say what it is yet, but it's going to be released this year. And that's been going amazingly. So a portion of that film has been done in Sheffield, putting us on the map, growing the team here. And that's the intention, is to continue growing it here and grow that talent pool. Hence the connection to UTC and, you know, establishing some pathways for you guys who are interested in animation and visual effects to kind of find a route in, you know, with our help. Actually, we just had our first intern through the Sheffield studio, and she did really well creating a show reel and is now looking for work. So there's the first success we've had with an intern through the Sheffield studio, kind of managed by myself mainly because of COVID and no one else is in the studio, but it's gone really well. Yeah, so if we go to the first slide or the next one after that, so a few facts about Jellyfish, how long we've been going, the last sort of 20 years. We do visual effects and CG animation. We do a mixture of stuff from live action to, as you could see from the show reel, all very high level, higher profile stuff. The team peaked at about 300 people across all sites this year, because we had such big work going through the studio. Feature film, our first feature film, in fact. It's just going really, really well. So you can see there some sort of basic statistics on what we've done in the past. We've won lots of awards, and we have taken on interns in London as well for apprenticeships. And as you'll see in the next few slides, there's sort of many ways to do that. We just move on to the next one, please, Alex. So I'm winging this a bit because I've been so busy today, but there's a few reasons why you might be interested in joining this rapidly expanding industry that we're in. There's so many facets to it. There's so many jobs available, not just creative ones, as you'll see a bit later. But it really is part of the future. You know, the digital sector is just growing exponentially at the moment, and there's a lot of jobs available. So we want to see you guys kind of thinking about the pathways you could take if you're interested in this sector, and how, you know, we can help you you know, find jobs. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, and not just find jobs, but jobs that you're interested in doing. So it's not really like a job, it's more of a sort of hobby. That's what it was always for me. It was always like going to work had to be a hobby. It had to be something I was really passionate about. And if we can find others that are that passionate, that's the aim of the game for us. Should we move on to the next one? There's just a pastiche of some of the work we've done, ranging from kids' TVs right up to series work. And we have, you know, many different departments creating these images and these animations, many different skill sets to create the final image. Next slide. So visual effects, what's visual effects? I used to do visual effects at Framestore primarily, and it's basically anything in a live action movie. the best visual effects, we always say, are the ones you can't see. If you can see them, they're done badly. If you can't see them, then we've done a good job. You know, pretty much every live action production you see on TV, whether it's series, film, or anything, commercials, has some kind of visual effects in it these days. Hence the rapidly expanding job market is huge. Many vacancies at Jellyfish every single year. We're always putting out adverts for vacancies and positions to be filled. And animation as a craft, you know, is very old. You know, you could say like caveman drawings were the first bits of animation, so it's been around forever. So we do a lot of different styles of animation, from 2D to 3D CG animation, to all sorts of different styles. We have an art department at Jellyfish that often create and design those styles. We also have an interior department that promotes employees coming up with ideas for series and shows that are then pitched to Jellyfish, and some of those shows actually get made. So we have a kind of interior, what they call creative bloom program, which encourages people within the company to conceive and design whatever it is, series ideas, and really contribute and direct their own things as well. So this bit might be interesting to some of you. Sorry, next slide. So this is just a basic layout of all the different kind of roles that contribute to the final product, from initial brief to the final delivery, and all the different skill sets required across the board, one feeding into another. It's very important. Teamwork is a massive thing. Obviously, so many different skills blending together to create one final product. That's just one example of a flow chart of all of those departments. So it's not just creative. You don't have to be able to draw to enter into this industry. It's as much about other subjects listed there on the left: science, technology, engineering, art, maths. Because it's such a technical industry as well as a creative one, it really is where science and art combine to produce these final images that you see on the screen. And it's as much about a combination of those skill sets. One wouldn't exist without the other. The art wouldn't exist without the science, and vice versa. So the skill sets we need are really right across the board, from one side of the fence to the other. So there's a good example of what I was just talking about. So whichever field particularly that you were particularly interested in, there's an example of some of the subjects you might think about studying to aim towards a path towards what you'd like to do, which area of specialization you'd like to do. And you don't necessarily get stuck in one path. You can jump around and move around. The skill sets across all of these disciplines are transferable. And so, you know, you don't have to make a decision and then just stick to it. You can deviate along the way, and it is quite flexible. Myself, it was animation all the way. I loved animation from day one, still love it now, 30 years later. And so, yeah, but it really is a multifaceted, multi-skill set industry. So these roles listed here are, you know, less what you might think are departments that are involved in our industry. You know, they are the structural roles that we need as artists and technicians to make everything work. So it's not just animating and art and figuring out how to build a rig. There's many different roles available in our industry. and then getting into the industry, there's, you know, accessing or thinking about what you want to do. There's lots of free software available that you can start playing around with. There's online tutorials, online forums and communities that can help you learn this stuff ahead of time, if you like, or introduce you to the idea of what our industry is all about. And then if you combine those things with the next slide, which is kind of these types of things, like you know, I started as a studio runner when I began all those years ago, and that got me into a studio working for Steven Spielberg a year later, animating 2D animated films, you know, back in the day. But there's more opportunities, access points into the industry than there were then. Running is more of the old school way of doing it, but there's all these other online courses, of university courses where we get most of our employees. But there really is a lot of choice now in terms of like how you define your path and what skill sets you feel like you need to learn to get to where you want to be. And then, you know, we can step in along the way and help with that in terms of internships or apprenticeships. Oh yeah, that's the end. Thanks for listening. I hope that was informative, and I hope I didn't go on too long.
Thank Kevin. Thanks so much. Kevin's going to be around right till the end. Some amazing work that he's done. Some really films that I know you all have all seen there. So we're really pleased to have Kevin, who's a very busy man, joining us tonight. So if you've got any questions about anything Kevin's raised, please drop them in the QA box. Kevin will be around at the end for the Q&A. So just before we move on to that Q&A, we're going to hear from the really important people now. So our students, and just preceding that, our alumni. So we've got two members of alumni. First, I'm going to play a very short video from Chloe Carlisle, who we're very pleased has pre-recorded something, who was a student here a few years back. She's going to tell us about her experience at the UTC. And then I've got Hannah Frost, who's going to speak to you. So I'll just leave you again for a couple of minutes, and I'll let you hear from Chloe, and then I'll come back on, and I'm going to give Hannah a grilling with a few questions. So I'll be back.
Hi, I'm Chloe, and I'm a production coordinator at Joy Polloy. I studied at UTC Sheffield back in 2014 to 2016, and I studied creative digital media. What have I done since leaving UTC? So after leaving UTC in 2016, I went straight to university and studied digital media production at Sheffield Hallam. That was a 3-year course, and during that time I learned a lot more about production, software, Adobe stuff. During my time at uni, I have worked with many clients. So I've worked with Age UK, I've worked with Bernardo's, Megaverse, DocFest, etc. And working with these people have benefited and got me where I am today because my tutor Anne Doncaster recommended me the opportunity to work as a freelancer for Joy Polloy. So Joy Polloy worked with Studio Lambert, who are the production company for The Circle on Channel 4. So they wanted an on-site producer to work for them and be in Salford while they were filming the show. And because of, obviously, you know, my work experience during uni, and obviously noticed my ambition, my passion, and recommended me, and then I got the job there. So I was working, you know, in the gallery, and it was a very exciting time. And then since then, a few months passed, so this was last year, and then Joy Polloy then offered me the role as a production coordinator, and that's where I am today. Please tell me about your experience at UTC and how it helped you where you are today. So my experience at UTC, so that was like 5 years ago, very beneficial because it's got me where I am today. And I think with UTC, like doing the course Creative Digital Media, you don't just focus on like a specific area. So you don't just focus on like production and creating video and video content, etc. Like you do go into like the other side of the media industry, which is like analysis, and learn that side of it, because when I did go to UTC back in 2014, I was like very sure about doing like film and photography, and I thought that was like the route I wanted to go down. But then when I got to UTC, I then realised like that wasn't what made me thrive. Like I did enjoy so many different things, but I did like the production side of it, but not so much the analysis side of it. So that's why then when I went to uni, I picked digital media production, which was more production based, software based than media studies, let's say. So it is definitely beneficial, and I think as well at UTC you do meet people within the industry. You do get them opportunities you probably wouldn't get elsewhere because of it's specified in media. And I think as well what's different about UTC than like other colleges, because it is a specialised college, like engineering and media, you are around them like-minded people, and you are going to have like very similar interests, and they'll be really good on your team, etc. And I think if you are going to UTC, you obviously have to have a passion and an interest in media. I think as well at UTC you do get a lot of independence and able to like make your own content, whatever you want to make really for projects. So I think that is a good thing. Like you do obviously get your briefs in certain areas, but it is pretty much left to you, which is amazing obviously, because you want to make your own stuff. It did really help me find like the path I want to go down, and because you dip your toe in like each area of the media industry at UTC, it helped me realise that I wanted to go more down like a production route, and like now I'm a production coordinator, so it helps. But otherwise, if I had like I don't know, not gone to UTC and probably studied in film and photography, I would have realised that there would have been like, I might have to go back to college again and like study something else. So it is really beneficial, and yeah. Thank you for listening. If you would like to get in contact with me, I will leave my email address on screen, so you can contact me if you've got any questions, any tips, advice that you want getting into the industry. Not that I'm going to get you into the industry, I can't guarantee that, but obviously tips of where to go if you're confused about certain things. Just obviously drop me an email. And obviously please do check out Joy Ploy. I do run the social media as well on there, so if you want to give us a follow on the Instagram, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks there to Chloe for preparing that for us. She was hoping to be here live, but then work commitments changed things. So I'm really appreciative of Chloe sharing her experiences and pre-recording that for us for tonight. So we have got one of our alumni who's live. If I could ask Hannah to turn her camera and a mic on, please. I'm going to ask her, Chloe has read the questions there, so we're going to ask Hannah the same sorts of things, but following Chloe's experience in the creative sector, Hannah studied engineering with us here, so she's going to tell us a little bit about her experience. So, hi Hannah, how are we?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Excellent.
Keeping well.
Excellent. So, just to start off, Hannah, thanks so much for joining us. Could you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing since you left the UTC, and then we'll come to your UTC experience in a moment.
Yeah. So I left UTC back in 2017, where I'd done my A-levels. So since then I've now gone into a level 3 apprenticeship with Arup, and that was immediately after leaving, where I'm now working as a building services design technician in the Sheffield office. So that involves the mechanical and electrical public health design buildings, commercial buildings predominantly. So that goes across like universities, offices, and many other wonderful projects involved in that as well. Mostly I create the drawings, so that's using building information modeling and CAD predominantly, and just taking those engineering designs onto paper and a floor plan as such. So in the past 2 years, I've completed my level 3 apprenticeship, and now onto my second year of my BEng at Leeds Beckett now, which is still a part of the degree apprenticeship scheme, and going very well. In terms of professional accreditation, I am now an engineering technician qualified and licentiate member of SIBC. So I've done quite a lot, I think, in the past 3 years.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much, Hannah. Could you tell us a little bit? So obviously you've had a wide range of experience since you've left, but could you just tell us a little bit about how your experience at the UTC really helped you to get to where you are today?
Yeah, I think I did a bit of a mismatch of courses, I believe. It was engineering, the art, physics, and some maths involved. And I think it's ultimately given me a really good foundation for the further learning I've done now since leaving, involved in my apprenticeship, on the job learning and extracurricular voluntary work that I'm part of still. So that was like, while I was at UTC, I took part in the World Skills competition, and it was good insight as to like how my attitudes towards applying myself in a different manner than just the academics was applicable to me elsewhere. So I'm involved in many voluntary projects now within Arup, which is like gaining me a lot more design experience along the way. I think as well, I got a lot of opportunities through UTC based on their employer links. So I did a week's work experience at one of the architecture firms locally, which decided to push me in a slightly different direction, as I decided it wasn't quite what I was looking for, and found something a bit more technical involved in building system design. And following on from that, I then came in touch with my now line manager at one of the employer events at the UTC prior to the actual interview. So I walked into the interview already knowing him, which was quite nice, a little less daunting in the face of a job interview. And ultimately, I wouldn't be where I am today without those experiences.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Hannah, and summarising your experience both at UTC and since you've left us. So I know you're hanging around. So if people have got any questions for Hannah, I've seen a few land in the Q&A box. Please drop them in, and we'll throw those at Hannah at the end. So thanks so much, Hannah, and we'll come back to you with a few questions. An amazing career that you've got so far, which I know is only going to go from strength to strength. So I'm now going to ask Hannah to turn the camera and the mic off, and we're going to invite our current students who are going to talk to us a little bit about their aspirations and why they came to the UTC. So if I could ask Nathan, Maisie and Cheyenne, please, to turn their cameras on. I'll give them a second to do that. Hi guys, if you'd like to unmute as well. And then I'm going to fire a question at you, and then if you could then 3 respond in order. So if we say go to Nathan, I'll come to you first, then to Maisie, and then to Cheyenne at the end, and then only a couple of questions, and then we'll move on to the panel Q&A at the end. So first of all, so what made you decide to come to the UTC for the 3 of you? So Nathan, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so before I came to the school, I knew 1 or 2 people that came here before. So I mean, I was really interested in their work that they were doing. So through that, it kind of sparked an interest, because at my old school there wasn't any CDM or any videography of any of sorts. So the school was pretty much the best option for me.
Thank you, Nathan. Maisie?
Hi. I decided to join the UTC, which feels like many years ago now, back in 2016. Because my original school, their media course was just not particularly what I was looking for in terms of doing media. It was very like essay type writing, not a lot of practical, and just general like grade predictions. I thought like I could get better teaching.
Excellent. And Cheyenne?
Hi. In year 11, during UCAS application process, one of my teachers told me about UTC and the engineering program. And when I came to the building and saw the environment and all the facilities and opportunities that the UTC provide, I decided to join UTC, and yeah, it's quite nice to be here.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Okay, next question for the 3 of you, and we'll go the same order. So Nathan, then Maisie, then Cheyenne. How have you found your experience at the UTC so far? Nathan first.
So I've been here since year 10. Well, in the past 2 or 3 years now, I've learned quite a lot about how cameras work, how things in movies, how every shot type is done for a reason. And we also learn how to create a range of products from music videos, magazines, websites, etc. So it's really interesting to see what path to go down.
Maisie?
In terms of experience, I've done a lot with UTC over the years. I've worked with clients at Post 16. I've done like a lot of production materials for people now, making websites for a client and stuff like that. So I've just had a lot of hands-on learning, a lot of like just being able to like take a brief and communicate with the client myself like I would do in an industry.
Fantastic. And Cheyenne?
Well, so far it's been so nice, and obviously we've been through a lot of things in the past few years, and like we've been in AMRC training center and lots of other stuff that we've done. And yeah, they give you all the experience you need for, you know, the next level, and you know, everything was so good so far.
Thank you, guys. Last question then, and then I'm going to ask everybody to come back on, and we can give everybody a grilling. Your bit's over, unless there's lots of questions for you. So just what are you studying at Post 16 at the moment? So what qualifications are you doing alongside your specialism, etc.? And where are you hoping that will take you at the end of year 13? So Nathan?
So currently I'm in my first year of doing a Cambridge Technical in creative digital media and photography as well, which they do link together quite well. However, I think after Post 16, I would like to go into videography, mainly for advertising, as I quite do enjoy filming and editing videos.
Excellent. Maisie?
I am doing the 720 media course, so the big one, and art, and I've just sent off my uni applications for going into an advertising and marketing sort of route, because I do like the more like digital, making social media campaigns. I'm not much of a filmer as much as I would like to be. It's not my strong suit, so I'm going into more graphics and advertising.
Perfect. Good luck with the applications.
Hoping.
Cheyenne?
Yes, currently I'm studying engineering, chemistry, physics, and maths, and I'm planning to go to university and probably do chemical engineering, hopefully.
Excellent. Well, thank you all so much, guys. You can leave your cameras on, but you can mute your mics, because I might be coming back to you with some additional questions shortly. So I've got a few bits of paper flying around. So if I could ask, while I just get that together, everybody, employers and presenter alumni, if you could all put your cameras on, please. Leave your mics muted for the foreseeable future, just while I get my head around the questions. And I'll start firing these at people. So we've got a few here, but I think we're still on course to be done for 6:15. Anybody who's listening, if you want to throw in any more questions, please do so. And just one thing I just forgot. There's one more slide for me to run through for everybody. That's just a bit more info, which may answer some of the questions that people are firing in. So. Just for those who are looking looking to apply. So just to let you know, if you're coming in year 9, the closing date for applications was technically the 31st of October, but we're still accepting applications. That kind of just aligns us with other school processes. So if you're after a place in year 9, please still get an application in. There is always a chance that you can get in there, especially as I'll mention in a minute about the lottery that we might have to run. Post 16, lots of you across Sheffield will be filling in your Sheffield Progress applications. Deadline for that is the end of January. Please get your application in there, and then obviously we'll look at results day then based on results for entry requirement. There's 100 places available in Y9, up to 160 in Y12, but critically with Y12, there's an entry requirement, so you need 5 GCSEs at grade 4 or above, and if you're coming in to do engineering, one of those has to be in a science. If you're doing A-levels alongside your technical qualification, we're looking for a grade 6 in that subject area. And if we end up oversubscribed, then actually we run a postcode lottery. So if you're into this sort of thing, you can go on our website. There's an admissions policy, and it will explain where there's certain amounts of places available at particular postcodes. And literally, if we're oversubscribed, we draw names out of a hat. That particularly affects year 9. At post 16, it very much falls down to the entry requirement. And those students, they get that on GCSE results day. So keep working hard, even if you are while working remotely, to make sure that you get the entry requirements. So moving on to questions. My first question, Dan, coming to you first. The first question, Dan, is a little bit more detail about the project that you set with the students here. So the question was, what project work do you do with the UTC students? You mentioned it in your talk, but just a little bit more about, we've done multiple projects actually, haven't we? So a little bit more info for the listeners, please.
Sure, no problem at all. So the current project is based around a remotely operated vehicle, an ROV. Basically, it's an underwater device for inspection and exploration. Might be used in oil and gas, might be used in sort of environmental, tracking animals, that type of thing. But the context is about a project that we worked on for a client. So it's based around a live project that we ran, where we have a requirement from the client. So basically, I become the client for the UTC students and set a set of specifications that need to be met, essentially, for you to get paid. So in my world, the client wants something. If I don't deliver it, I don't get paid. So what we've tried to do amongst the technical challenges, which I'll come to, is also set some of the kind of business parameters that we have to work to. So for one, time is really important, and if you're late, there may be a penalty, or you may not get paid. So for you guys in the project, you have to hand it in on time, otherwise you don't get your marks and you don't get your grades, and obviously there's serious consequences of that. So the essence is to really show and promote the skills that we use as design engineers in the office. So it's a full spread of the skills and techniques that we would use. So we start with kind of some sketching, some ideas, getting ideas down quickly, and then there's some calculations. So there's some challenges in terms of dimensions. So working out how big things should be, and then there's some questions on loading, and how structurally things would be. We ask the students to make considerations on material selection, and then that's linked to manufacturing. So all of these things, design for manufacturers is a major part for engineering design. And if you don't understand how things are made and what they're made from, designing them becomes a very difficult thing to do, or certainly designing them in a sensible and economic and performance-based result is very difficult. So we run through all of the things that we would do in the project as parts of the units. Now, the other skills that you get are how to use the computer, or how to design in the CAD. So very powerful tool for engineers, visualization, exploration of ideas, and actually the UTC is using SolidWorks, which is probably the largest used CAD system possibly in the world, certainly in the UK. And so there are a lot of engineering companies that use SolidWorks. Therefore, you have those skills which helps accelerate you up to speed when you take a job with them. And then we've got a whole sort of part on how you write the project up and communicate it. So that delivery of the project to the client. So for the UTC, the students is delivering that to the staff and myself. How you communicate what you've done and where you've made your assumptions. So really, it's a very full process on how engineering design works. So we've designed it and it's evolved. We've done a UAV, so an aerial vehicle, and now we're doing the underwater. But the principle is the same. The basic thing is that it tries to touch on as many of the factors involved in delivering design projects in reality in the course. Does that about cover it, Alex? Is there anything else I should?
Perfect. No, thank you so much.
No problem at all.
Next one coming to, this is alumni and current students. So Hannah, I'll come to you last. We'll ask our current students first. So guys, if you can respond in exactly the same order as previously, I think that's the easiest way to do it. So somebody's asked how did you find the move, leaving your previous school to come to the UTC? How did you find that decision, and how was the transition? Nathan, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think, well, if I can remember back to year 10, for the first week or so, it was quite scary, especially getting on the bus for the first time. But I think after a while, you do get used to it, and yeah, it can be quite tiresome waking up early in the morning, but it's all right, to be fair.
Amazing.
I found it very good because I was coming out of school, I wasn't particularly happy in at all, and I also came with a friend, so that sort of helped. It wasn't an alone bus ride for me, and I knew people, so I was pretty comfortable.
Excellent, thank you. Shaya?
Yeah, well, as I said before, one of the reasons that I chose UTC was the environment that it had. You know, it's quite friendly and also professional. So, you know, there's no problem. I think everything's going to be fine. Yeah.
Thank you, Shaya. Perfect. We're friendly. That's a good thumbs up. Good thumbs up from me. Hannah, if you can remember that far back now, you're off in the big wide world. But yeah.
Yeah, it seems so long ago now. Yeah, I think the transition, I was somewhat quite ready to leave my previous school in the sense, but I came to UTC on my own. There was no one I knew already. But I think having done that, there was quite a lot of people also in the same boat. So I think everyone's very keen to make friends still, and it doesn't feel like you're on your own. It's still, there's people around, and yeah, I didn't seem to notice a change really, and like I came and then it settled in quite quickly really.
Thank you. Good memory.
Just about.
Hannah, while you're on, I've got one more for you. I might as well while you're here. Just a quick one, and it's asked about would you now do anything different in your career if you could?
Oh, I don't know. It's probably different in the sense that I kind of went on to do another level 3.
Yeah.
And I'd have probably focused more on my engineering because I did the singular A-level equivalent of the engineering diploma. I'd have probably focused more on that and possibly have done a larger chunk of that because I think that's been more translated to the immediate studies I did.
Instead of doing the number of A-levels you did, you mean?
Yeah, I'd probably reconfigure how I did that, but in the sense of now I'm at university, I'm coming back to the engineering mathematics at a higher level. I'm seeing the positives of both.
Yes.
So it's it's evolving with me as much as I can remember it at the time as well. So
yeah, excellent. Thank you, Hannah. Perfect.
Yes.
Kevin, coming to you.
Hi.
Couple of questions coming your way, really. First one was how you might have mentioned this in your talk, but just for clarity for people asking the question, how did you get into your line of work? I think you mentioned you did some running, but
yeah, I left school after O levels, and I went straight to art college. I didn't do A levels. I was so passionate about art at that time. I decided not to do A levels at all and went and did a foundation in art and design at West Sussex College of Design in Worthing for a year. And then I proceeded to do graphic design because that was kind of the direction I was going in. Part of that graphic design course had an animation module on it. It wasn't called a module back then. It was called, I don't know, project or something. But and I did the animation module. I was so fascinated suddenly, like about the moving image as opposed to the graphic still image. That's when I decided that's it. That's my thing. That's what I like doing. So then I went and did a full media everything course, which included animation, storyboarding, video scripting, shooting, everything. HND. So I did a BTEC, then an HND. And then I went out into the industry and got a job as I thought I was going to be a director, but hey, I went out into the world and they said, yeah, you could be a director a bit later. Make a cup of tea to start with. So then I just got into a studio, an animation studio, and made tea for all the people that work there, but eventually started working in that studio, doing tasks that they would set me and building up my skill sets. And within a year, I had a job offer at Steven Spielberg's company, which was setting up in London at the time. And that was it. That was my career laid out from that point on. Was, you know, I worked on 3 feature films at his studio, and I never looked back really since then.
Amazing. Thank you so much. While I've got you, I might as well keep you. You mentioned some of the software packages students might be able to go away with an experiment, but a bit more of a specific question here. What software packages did Jellyfish in particular use to do some of the work that we saw earlier?
Mainly it's Autodesk Maya. So you can get a free license of that as a student. I think it's just got a watermark across it, but you can if you can prove you're a student, you can get a license for that and start using it straight away. Blender, the one I mentioned in the talk, is very similar to that, and that's a free platform software that you can use. But Maya is the industry standard pretty much across all companies. And on Maya, you can do modeling, animation, lighting, effects, everything. But there's other programs as well, like Houdini. There's quite a big selection of software programs, but those are the main ones. And they're quite accessible, you know, for people that want to dip their toe in and see if it's for them.
Perfect. I've got one for both Dan and Kevin here, employers, and then I'm going to go. I think I'm coming, Hannah. I'm coming back to you next. I think. I guess it was inevitable. We're going to get asked this question. How has the downturn / COVID-19 had an impact on the industries, really?
Shall I go first, Dan?
Yeah, sure.
Remarkably none for us, because just before COVID hit, we weren't obviously predicting it, but we were structuring the whole company to be able to remote work anywhere. So when COVID hit, we were able to send all the employees to work from home, as I am now, with a full setup. So we connect to machines in a warehouse down in Middlesex somewhere through broadband connections, and we're able to work through secure networks and continue working. And then we do all of our reviews and critiques. We have daily calls with DreamWorks in Los Angeles, and we do all the critique and notes with them, and then we go away, come back to our desks and do the animation, and then we do the same thing the next day. So apart from not the non-face-to-face, which is a bit of an issue, we've just basically made a feature film online. So amazingly, we were kind of future-proof, right? You know, right from the start.
Thank you.
Call it luck or skill. I don't know.
Foresight.
Yeah, foresight. Yeah.
Dan?
I think we share some of that in the respect that we too set up remote working, had it in place more from our engineers being able to work on site and things. So, you know, taking the laptops and the workstations homes, we had secure networks. We can call our CAD licenses off our server, and we can run our data across quite comfortably. So in that respect, we were lucky. Again, you know, that wasn't anything to do with us foreseeing any of that. It's just, it was practical for us and helped us work with our clients globally. Industry wise, there was a bit of a slowdown for us, mainly because our aerospace clients obviously were heavily and still are heavily affected. However, some of our other clients, we do some work with a modular building client, and their business was going great guns because of you know, temporary hospitals and buildings and things. So we've seen it in the engineering world, a real mixture of fortunes. For us, we're diverse, so that is definitely a strategy that we had from the commencement of our business during the start of the recession. So we've always been working across multiple sectors. So in that respect, we were pretty robust. You know, there's been downturns in oil and gas that really can leave some engineering and manufacturing firms to struggle when they're so reliant on a single industry, but we've never been like that. So, you know, fortunately, you know, I'm very grateful that we haven't suffered too much. I would say one thing for us, I'd be interested in Kevin's thoughts, but the biggest challenge for us with not all being able to be in the building together is the development of our younger engineers. So the transfer of skills and knowledge from our senior team into the junior team, and quite frankly, just the lack of banter. So we're a sociable bunch. You know, Kevin mentioned about, you know, the teams and the collaboration, and the UTC has that in abundance too. And I think we do miss having that kind of social interaction in the office. It's very good for innovation. It's very good for problem solving, getting all your heads together and doing it. So that we do over Teams or Zoom or whatever. So it's not quite as good, but it's a pretty good substitute given the situation. So fortunately, we're in a good place. Our biggest challenge at the moment is we want to grow. We want to get into a new building, and the building that we want is not being vacated because the company in there aren't doing anything because of COVID. So it definitely has some impact, but fortunately, we're very grateful that actually in terms of business and work to do, it's not been bad.
I think one thing that's come up with us is that the idea of a blend of the two things, so that we have the ability to go to the office and work in groups like that, but also the flexibility of being able to work remotely. I think the future is something around that kind of model where there is a bit more flexibility, but treating the face-to-face and the teamwork aspect of things as not something that's going to go away.
I agree, Kevin. I think actually that's something for our young engineers and digital media employees coming up, is that the world's going to have changed a bit, and actually it's going to be much better. So for us, some of our senior team with families, they can, when the school run's going, they don't have to leave at silly o'clock. They don't have to pay for after hours. So there are some significant benefits, and you can miss rush hour and save 30 minutes, an hour a day that can be spent working, can be spent sleeping, can be spent with your family. So I think there's some exciting times ahead. I think it's just proven to the world that technology allows us to work in a slightly different way, and it won't mean that we work in that way all the time, but it means we'll get perhaps the best of both kind of working ways. So exciting times ahead, I think.
Thank you both. We're going to run slightly over. That's okay. I've got a few more questions to throw out, but I promise you 5 minutes max. But I do want to try and get to people's questions. This is for existing students and past students. So I'm not necessarily going to come to all of you, but if any of you would like to come forward, and if not, I'm going to pick on you. What advice would past and present students give to students who are thinking about joining? Anybody want to go first? Go on, Maisie. Yeah, thank you.
I'd always say, just put everything into it. Sometimes you are really tired and there is a lot of work. Don't get me wrong, I've never not got something to do, put it that way. But just really go into it and proper just try your hardest, because it really does pay off in the end.
Yeah. You get out what you put in.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anybody else? Go on, Hannah, first. You unmute it. Nathan, I'll come to you.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one completely, as to you completely get out what you put in, sort of thing. I think the hours of the day probably would seem quite daunting to someone coming from a traditional school type. But honestly, you get into such a routine, it goes by so quickly, and it's normal. And honestly, I started working my normal job, and it was similar hours still. And it just felt a lot easier. I think if I had to do that without having those hours already implemented into me somehow, I'd be falling asleep at my desk. So I'm glad I had the opportunity to get used to that fast.
That's great to hear, Hannah. That's what it's there for. Nathan?
Yeah, I think also, if you're not sure exactly on what you want to do, just sign up for everything, because the worst that can happen is that it's not the right subject for you. So just try anything, really.
Thank you. Perfect. Dan, I've got a very specific one for you. We've only got a minute or two, and then I've got one last one for both you and Kevin, and then I think we'll draw a line under it then, unless anything very easy comes through. Dan, what specific qualifications are needed? And a very specific question: what seasons of F1 did you work in? So if you're going to work in F1, what qualifications do you need? And specifically, what seasons did you work with Ferrari, wasn't it?
No problem at all. Yeah. So qualification-wise, I have a degree in aerospace engineering. So I think I did maths, physics, A level, and went on to do a graduate degree. However, I think there is much more flexibility now, so apprentice led. I guess it also depends what area you want to go into. So for me, my goal was to go into the design office. So that's the kind of CAD based, calculation based area, but there's plenty of more practical aspects, milling, turning, machining, there's composite laminating, there's testing, there's racing mechanics. So I think, to be fair, anything that the UTC can offer you in terms of that career path, from apprenticeship through to A-level stroke, graduate, postgraduate qualifications, with anything in engineering, you can sort of head towards that direction. There are some specialist areas, finite element analysis, computational fluid dynamics, aerodynamics, that may want you to choose some selected units within those courses, particularly high level apprenticeships and in graduate things. You may want to tune your course the best you can to suit a particular direction, but really mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering are two very good graduate routes, and then obviously apprenticeships along those lines too, perhaps for some of the more practical areas you might want to head into. So does that sound about right, Alex?
Yeah, and then specifically they said, which seasons of F1 did you work in?
So my first season when I did my work experience was 92. And I carried on at school working after that, weekends and holidays. I worked my year out, which was 95. So and then I was involved then with the first Schumacher car, which was 97. At that point, we left Ferrari, and so I'm working summer holidays while doing my degree. I was sponsored, and then when I joined full time, we'd gone through Arrows, which would have been 98, and then we were working with Prost, sort of 99 to 2001 ish. Then Prost went pop in a big way, and the business had been bought from Ferrari, so the full facility was now privately owned, and that then offered services, so from sort of 2000 to 2004-05 across all of the teams. So we did stuff for McLaren, Honda, Jaguar, which would have become Red Bull, and BAR, so quite a wide range.
Thank you, Dan, perfectly. This one, Dan, stay on, because this one's for you and Kevin, and I think that's going to be my last question, especially when you find out what it is. We've done COVID. I'm going to ask you in about each about 15, 20 seconds, because this could take us all night. Have you felt the impact of Brexit?
Do you want me to take this one first, Kevin?
Sure.
I would say no. The reason I'm going to say no, and I guess ultimately, really, we're going to start feeling it now because of it's real now. No, because we're pretty much digitally based. So although we do produce components, prototypes, generally one-offs, most of our delivery is in electronic form. So for us, the biggest challenge, there is a good bit about qualifications I will mention. Most of the deliverables are transmitted electronically, so the potentials with tariffs and tax and things and duty are less of a concern to us. And obviously at the minute it's still okay. The one thing I think from our business that's going to be very interesting is whether Europe will recognise our qualifications. So there is some talk, and this is the same with America and Canada, and it doesn't seem to be a problem, but Europe were pushing quite hard to say that they weren't going to recognise all of our qualifications. Therefore, as an engineer, to be able to work in Europe, you would need at least to get chartered status. Now, I've not done that. It's on my list of things to do. In fact, we're looking at going for a fellowship, but it will be accelerated in our business from the opportunity to work in Europe and possibly then an insurance point of view. So that is definitely one thing that we are keeping a close eye on Brexit for. I guess ultimately, whether there are challenges of Europe coming to us for business, there's somewhere it could, but I don't believe that it will make that much difference to us.
Kevin?
That was more than 20 seconds.
It could be an hours long conversation.
Well, yeah, it could be. I mean, I'm not the head of the company. I'm not feeling it personally in Sheffield myself. I think because our model for talent now is to go. The technology is allowing us to go where the talent is, not just remotely, but also to set up pocket studios around the world, in the north of England. You know, everywhere. We have about 5 studios now. That isn't such a big of an issue in terms of like the talent coming over from Europe or from our own country. So I don't, you know, the ability to work remotely again, you know, is a strength. So I think it's probably going to hit us less hard than maybe 10 years ago. We hope.
Thank you both. I think we're gonna. I've got one last one for the both of you. If we can do it very, very quickly. So where does your motivation come from? Which is a big question. And how easy is it to move around in your industry? Do you find people? That's aimed at both of you actually, both Dan and Kevin. But I'm conscious I'm about 7 minutes over now, guys. So if you can give me a short response, that would be great, and then I can do final remarks.
Shall I go, Dan?
Go for it, please.
Okay, I think animators particularly are quite itinerant people, and they go from project to project. They go for where the work is. So they kind of people like myself pretty much stay put. They don't move so much, more senior managerial kind of stuff. But in terms of like the career animator, they tend to be able to, you know, basically go where the work is, the work that they find interesting and thrilling, and that's what drives me is the project, making it as good as possible, yeah, it's exciting for them. They, you know, in their 20s, they kind of tend to go around the world and work for different studios in Canada, in America, and in Europe, and kind of gain as much experience as possible. And now Sheffield. So you know, I think there's a lot of scope for not just staying with one company. I think it's almost beneficial early on to move around, find the people, the teams that you like working with, and get as much experience as you can. It's you know, when you get a bit older like me, that you could stay in one place, it's not such a big deal. But yeah, that's my answer.
Perfect. Thanks, Kevin.
I think I can echo that with engineers. I mean, certainly from my experience in motorsport and racing, you know, engineers bounce from team to team, and then they kind of, you know, that kind of lifestyle becomes, as they get a bit older, but the knowledge they've gained from those different experiences, same thing as Kevin's saying, then allows you to go anywhere. So, you know, if you've got a good engineering experience, regardless of the sector, you can go and apply it somewhere else. I mean, you know, there are certainly some areas which are heavily specialized and are hard to get into, but general engineering, mechanical, aerospace, you know, you can take that to a whole host of countries and companies, and, you know, gain even more experience. And, you know, for me, the enthusiasm comes from solving problems. I love solving problems. Kevin said it so well. You know, when your job is not a job, when it's your hobby and your passion, going to work every day is easy, and, you know, and getting paid well for it is a bonus. So I'm heavily driven by problem solving, by our clients challenging me to fix their problems. You know, it's like a puzzle every day, and, you know, massive thrill for getting it right. And my last enthusiasm comes from my hope for an island that I'm going to buy when I sell my company. So, you know, the opportunities that you can drive through these careers and the things you can make, and, you know, whatever you fancy. But ultimately, the passion is solving problems, is fixing things, is learning something new every day. And if, you know, certainly for me in engineering, that is the best career to allow me to get that fix on a daily basis.
Thank you, Dan. I think that's a perfect note to end on. I'd like to say a massive thank you to all of our speakers tonight. Dan's talked very much there about solving problems, and we've managed to get to speak to you in a very, very difficult time. Just so you know, we're here in the UTC. The staff have been in today, social distance. We're teaching pretty much the full curriculum. Staff have had to shift to teaching around about 26 lessons a week online. So our students are getting anywhere between 27 and 30 lessons a week online at Key Stage 4, and our post-16 curriculum, our post-16 students are getting their full curriculum online, which has been hugely challenging. But we've managed to adapt to that. I can't wait until A, we can get our students back in the building, and B, we can actually invite you all to come into the UTC and see us here live. So it's been great to see you all. Thank you everybody who's come on tonight. It's been a real pleasure to have you all here. Things to think about. We've got a virtual tour coming in the very near future. We've got a company coming in who are actually going to scan the building, so you'll be able to actually, a bit like Google Maps, you'll be able to walk around, which I think is quite innovative. So look out for that, and that will hopefully do part of a job until we can get you back in the building. And then our next events are the options evening. So we'll have a post-16 and a Y9 options evening later in the year. We get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of things like uniform, how you get here, option subjects, what the curriculum looks like, times of the day. All of that information will come to you later in the year. Now you've got a feel about what we're really here to do from our employers. So look out for those dates coming your way. Thank you again for everybody. Thank you to all of our presenters, and we'll see you soon. So thanks everybody. Cheers. Good night.